What's up, guys? Welcome back to Mile High Misfits. So I have heard countless times, what kind of oil do I use? What gas do I put in my car? What coolant type do I put in the car? And today I wanted to make a video dedicated to exactly that. I want to answer all those questions so that way they never have to be answered again. And let me preface this by saying you might not agree with everything that's on this list. There is a plethora of different options for fluids out there, but this is exactly what I use in my C5 Corvette. And guys, I promise, even though it's on jack stands, this car does run magnificently. The only reason why it's on jack stands is because of this. I'm installing some long tube headers and an X-pipe and some high flow cats on this car. So stay tuned for that video because that's going to be next week. So obviously, to start this video off, the first one is going to be engine oil. So for my C5 Corvette, I use the full synthetic 5W30 from Mobil 1, and this is done really well in this car. Obviously, the Mobil 1 5W30 is the OEM fill that GM recommends for these cars, so I feel pretty comfortable running it. But guys, honestly, you can really use any 5W30 that's full synthetic. Some of the other brands that are recommended by GM are Royal Purple, Pennzoil Platinum, Castrol. Some people have also recommended going with 10W30 AMSOIL, but for me, I'd just rather stick with what works and is recommended by the manufacturer. So guys, the next one is going to be brake fluid. So GM recommends using either .3, .4, or .5.1 for the brake fluid for these cars. So .4 and .5.1 are going to be a little bit better if you plan on bringing your car to the track much more often because they've got a little bit of a higher boiling point than .3. But if you're just going to be doing a lot of daily driving, then .3 is going to be perfectly fine. And .3, .4, and .5.1 are compatible with each other, but do not use .5 because it's silicon-based and will not mix with the others. So now moving on to power steering fluid. The Valvoline power steering fluid seems to do well with these cars, but guys, it's pretty hard to go wrong with power steering fluid. Most people on the forums have said that they just go with the cheapest option and it works fine. Some people even say that they use automatic transmission fluid as power steering fluid, which I've heard about plenty of times and I have done it in other cars and it really has never caused an issue. But with my Corvette, I'm going to go with regular power steering fluid. I'm not going to use automatic transmission fluid just because I don't want to add in variables that could possibly pose a risk. But again, guys, I don't think it's going to be a huge deal no matter what you choose. Next up is clutch fluid. So GM's factory fill for these cars is .4 fluid for the clutch. So Prestone .4 is going to be totally fine for these cars. Some people also use .3, but I use .4. The next one is gasoline. So as most of you guys already know, GM recommends only putting in 91 octane fuel in your C5. But on top of that, if you want to keep your fuel level sensors and your fuel system in general in good shape, a lot of people use Techron additives in their fuel system every 3,000 to 4,000 miles, and that seems to do a lot of good for the fuel system for these cars, so I would recommend it. The next one on the list is your coolant. Most cars use a 50-50 mixture of distilled water and antifreeze. And the C5 is no different. So you're going to use 50% distilled water and 50% Dexcool. Dexcool is the orange coolant, and it also has a longer life than your standard green coolant. So you do not want to mix the orange and green coolants because they are not compatible and they'll make a sludge in your radiator and your cooling system. So that will cause a ton of damage to your car if you mix the two, so only use Dexcool. So now moving on to transmissions. So for the automatic transmission, GM recommends using Dexron 3 or Dex 3 compatible fluids. So GM recommends using the GM Goodwrench Dexron 3 automatic transmission fluid for your transmission service, but you should be able to use any ATF that is Dexron 3 compliant. So the next one is the fun one, guys. There are a ton of different opinions on the forums of what fluid to put in the manual transmission. So let's just go over a few of these options. So for the T56 service manual, GM recommends the OEM part number 888-61800. And they say if OEM fluid is not available, use Dexron 3 instead. And GM also stated that you should not use Dexron 6 as a replacement for Dex 3 because this can cause transmission damage. But there have been some people on the forums that have said they've used it and it was fine. But if GM says it, I'm probably not going to put it in the car. A ton of other people have recommended using Redline D4 ATF and AMSOIL Torque Drive ATF. And guys, I haven't done a manual transmission fluid service on this car yet, but I am going to be doing it this winter because I'm going to be replacing the reverse gear and the reverse gear shift fork. So I'm obviously going to have to do a fluid change at that time. I'm not sure which fluid I'm going to go with yet, but stay tuned for that video because I'm going to show you guys how to fix the reverse popping out of gear issue that I have that I showed in the last video that we did. So stay tuned and I'll show you guys exactly what fluid I end up going with. Now the last fluid on this list is going to be the differential gear fluid. So I also haven't done the diff fluid change in my car yet, but based on what I've seen on the forums, most people use AMSOIL Severe Gear 75W90 with the slip lock additive, Mobil 1 75W90 synthetic gear lubricant LS with the additive already included, or they use Royal Purple Max Gear 75W90 with the friction modifier. But honestly guys, pretty much any 75W90 fluid from a reputable brand is going to do the trick on these differentials, so I really wouldn't stress too much about what you use. But there you have it guys, those are all the fluids that I recommend using in your C5 Corvette. If you disagree with anything I said in that video, let me know in the comments below because I know there are going to be a ton of different opinions and I want to hear them all. But if you enjoyed the content for today, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for future content. And guys, if this video helped you out, help us out as well. The best way to support the channel is to subscribe to Mile High Misfits. So if you got a second, leave a like and subscribe guys. But I will catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.